The warmest of greetings to you, and welcome to Happily Ever Teaching. In this podcast, we help you enthrall your learners in every subject under the sun using the best teaching method known to science, storytelling. To do this, we feature special guest educators who are passionately keen for your children to become amazing and successful human beings. I am Storyteller Chip Cahoon, and with me this week is...
Toria Bono. I am a Year 4 teacher in a large junior school on the South Coast, and I am the host of the podcast Tiny Voice Talks.
And I'm Helen. I'm a teacher currently in a mixed reception Year 1 class, teaching in Buckinghamshire.
And today we are exploring what maths we can teach with a stupendously silly folktale from Russia. You can listen to the story by downloading our sister podcast, Fables and Fairy Tales, or search our website, epictales.co.uk, for The Fish in the Forest. There you'll find a video of me telling the story that you can share with your children. And if you sign up as an Epic Educator, you'll also get a copy as an ebook or paperback illustrated by the magnificent Coelho, as well as the full audiobook for you to download at any time. There are even some tips there for telling the story yourself and a whole heap of resources to go with the lesson ideas we're about to discuss, as well as extra lesson ideas that we maybe didn't have time to fit into this podcast. Right now, though, let's continue our discussion with Helen and Toria as we begin counting up our turnips with the farmer and his wife. If we go for the mathematics here for ages 7 to 11 first, Toria, could you take us through that?
Oh, you're asking me because I'm like really happy with the maths I found for this. So I'm just going to throw this out to both of you. 4 friends each have a different piece of gossip. They are all in separate locations and communicate only via their phones. So what is the smallest number of text messages that they need to send between each other to guarantee that everyone knows all the gossip? Now, I'm not going to put you on the spot to answer that. But basically, the maths that I've got is all linked to that question. And so basically you've got that, you've then got, slightly different versions of it. You've then got moving on to phone calls. Actually, what about if it's going to phone calls and there's in a phone call between 2 friends, each friend can share what they know with the other. So that changes it slightly. Then you've got a group with 8 friends. So it's a really lovely...
So is it the idea that they've all got some gossip to share?
Yeah.
Ah, right.
And basically it's a maths investigation to work out. And I love doing these maths investigations with Key Stage 2 children because you can get loads of pieces of paper and children come at it in lots of different ways. Some children will actually have different pieces of paper equaling each person. Some people will be doing diagrams. Some people would be, it's amazing the way people work it out. Now, the great thing is, and this is for, those Year 6 children that you think, goodness, can I stretch them any further? Actually, there is an algebraic formula for it.
Oh.
Indeed.
Oh.
So when you get onto it, there is an algebraic formula. Now, I have actually put the article in there with all the answers as well, you'll be pleased to know. So you'll be able to see all of that because I think it's a really great investigation. And when I read through it, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, this is brilliant. Because I know, having done these sort of investigations with Key Stage 2 children, it really brings maths to life.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm so excited about my maths and gossip, everyone.
And it's lovely when they go and create algebra formulas for things that you actually would like to know. Like I can remember seeing the formula for the chances of life on other planets and the chances that there are aliens in the universe. Basically, it's brilliant when they put those sorts of things together, and you can say, "Look, here's maths that's about things that we actually like."
Yeah.
But we'll definitely put that formula and some of those ideas in the resources that go out for Epic Educators. Thanks for those, Toria. Do you have your own answer though?
Oh, I'm not sharing that on air. We've got to go and figure it out.
Sorry, we can always edit it out,
No. I'm there with all the answers. I know them all. Yeah, it would be a week's worth of basically investigations because there's an awful lot to each one because you've got various days. The children could then actually, if you want to extend it further, they can create their own investigations. and they can see if the algebraic formula that they've created applies, or whether they need to create a new algebraic formula. So there's a lot to it. You could really do a whole thing just on, investigations I think they're not done enough.
I agree. Yeah.
And it could even be tested, couldn't it? You could actually have 4 different children, give them each a separate piece of gossip and see how long it takes for them all to get it to each other.
But I think, and it's about that, actually, how do they go about it? And with some classes, you'd need to go right back to the beginning, teaching them how to investigate.
Yeah.
With other classes, they would know what to do. But if I did it with my Year 4 class, we'd actually have to look at, okay, so if you've got 4 people, we need to label them A, B, C, D. We need to let, A talks to B, A talks to C, A talks to D.
Do you know what, Toria? Hearing you describe this, I've wondered whether you could actually combine it with one of the English ideas that we were talking about yesterday, the innovation of stories, and set your children a task of, if one person innovates a different part of the story each time, how long will it be before the whole story is completely new?
Wow. Yes. Yeah. I think they'd need to cover the rest of the investigation thing first. I definitely think that would be the extension. I think you'd need to put in parameters such as how many innovations there are going to be. But I think that's quite something.
Well, that would be for them to discover as well, surely, as they're doing their literacy side of it, discovering how many innovations they could make. And then, see how long it would be before you do end up with a completely new story.
Yeah.
If we head down, though, towards the ages 4 to 7, where have you taken us with this one, Helen?
In quite a very different direction, as you'd imagine. My brain is a little tired from all the talk of algebraic formulas. So let me bring us back to fish and treasure and turnips for the 3 ideas I've got. So these are 3 quite discrete mathematical-based ideas, all linked to the story. The first one is to do with finding. I've called it finding the fish, but it's really finding anything. And it's all to do with positional language. So in the early years, we're learning how to describe the position of items underneath, on top of, next to, beside, at the top, at the bottom, opposite, all of this positional language. And so I thought we could start that outdoors, if the weather permits, with a bit of a treasure hunt for the children. You can have images of fish and sausages and other things that you've hidden around the outdoor area, but hidden very specifically. You've thought about where they are. And then you give the children some clues, go and find something that's underneath a log or at the top of the climbing frame. So then they're using all that positional language. And then to build on that, the children then can play the game themselves, where they're hiding items and describing where they are to friends, all with you involved as the teacher, of course, because you're listening in and you're assessing what they know and you're supporting them and modelling the language. So a lot of playing about with hiding items and using positional language. And then sort of going into key stage 1, you could give them a pre-prepared map of a forest or anywhere really. And then 2 different ways you could do this. You could have the instructions for them. So draw a fish on a branch, or draw some sausages inside what would it be inside? Inside a something, inside a hole.
inside a log.
Inside a log, inside a hole in the ground. So then they're applying their positional language. Or you could do it the other way round, where they draw all the items and then have to write sentences using the language. You could have sentence starters. For my year 1s, I probably have the sausages are, and then they finish it off, just because we don't want writing to get in the way of maths, which it can do if you try and get children to write as part of their maths lesson in the early years. So that would be the one activity that would take a couple of days, I think a couple of maths lessons to get all the language there. And then a very simple activity is to do with making treasure. I think later on I'll be talking about using the treasure in this story for various projects, but in terms of maths, a very, very simple link is to make 2D shaped treasure. Very simple link, but effective. Okay. Just instead of just teaching children 2D shapes, they're making treasure using 2D shapes, and that way there's just a bit more discussion around it. They're a bit more invested in it because they're making treasure, and you're just
talking not just coins here, but like gemstones as well, I presume. Yeah,
hexagonal gemstones and octagonal rubies and all of those things. And that's a great activity to stretch from reception up to year 2, because depending on the shape you're introducing them to and the children's knowledge already.
Yeah.
So that's a simple link, but worth doing as part of this story, I think. And then the final link is to do with turnip fields. I've been doing multiplication and division with my year 1s recently. And in year 1, it's all about using concrete objects to make equal groups, share out equally, and also to make arrays. So like equal rows, a very neatly arranged equal rows. So I thought the idea of turnip fields would be a good link here, mainly in year 1 and year 2. So you set children a problem, the farmer planted his turnips, 4 rows of turnips with 5 turnips in each row. How many turnips does he have?
Yeah.
And they're creating that using counters and drawing it. So a simple way to teach children about multiplication and arrays.
Fantastic.
And sharing out, division. The farmer has got 25 turnips. He's very kindly sharing his turnips between 5 of his friends because they love turnips.
As most of your children will after the English activity from yesterday.
They will either love turnips or they will be very tired of turnips.
That's sadly all we have time for today, folks. If you'd like to talk to us about anything you've heard in this podcast, or if there's a subject you're soon to teach that you'd like us to cover, you can find us on social media using @TeachHappily, or leave us a review using your favourite podcast app. Please also share this podcast with your colleagues and help us start a story-led revolution in classrooms around the world, so children everywhere can learn in a way that's effective, memorable, and enjoyable all at the same time. Tomorrow, the farmer and his wife will help us teach science. But right now, it only remains for us to say cheerio, and we hope to hear your story soon. So, cheerio! And we hope to hear your story soon.